Hey guys, hope you're well. Forgive me, I'm a little poorly shaven. Didn't expect DOA to show up to court today, but wanted to rush over once I found out that would probably be the case. Or first I wanted to check and then got confirmed that he is in court. We're at a lunch recess, so I'll have more of a full report for you in about 2 hours from now, but wanted to give you a preliminary feel as to how things are going. And as always, I have my links for Cash App and other donation methods should you want help. I want to thank Mr. Taylor for a big donation, and CC as well, quite the looker. So thank you guys for your support, and I have that link. But we have some important things to talk about in addition to DOA. Big news about the appeal that ZDT filed against their restraining order that Enri was successful in getting against him. I guess let's start with that, just because that will take all of 30 seconds. That was denied. Appeal denied. It is over. ZDT kept bragging in his YouTube videos how this is all frivolous, how he's gonna successfully appeal all of these. He was unsuccessful. In fact, he was so unsuccessful because this guy is now broke as hell. ZDT couldn't even afford to pay the filing fee, so it automatically got denied. I'm sure even if he was prescient and submitted things on time, he was also very eager in trying to file this appeal, which didn't actually give him enough time to get the evidence together. So his over-eagerness in trying to present something on the docket to say that he's actually using the money, idiots like Dash and Grandma sent him, and other sad, pathetic people, he wants to prove to them that he's using it for an actual tangible reason, and he wants to have those filings show up, even though he knows he's going to keep losing because he's a loser. He's also threatened to euthanize my dog if I show up. That won't happen. I will show up tomorrow. Whether he shows up or not, that's his decision. If he doesn't, and there's no answer on the gun, and he has to show up, then he is liable for arrest. So he could make threats against the life of my dog, and threats against me being arrested, but it only makes me laugh, and I am eager. I will be eager to show up and report to you tomorrow, and nothing he will ever say will scare me away. In fact, it just gives me pleasure in the day, because it's just something to laugh about. Get a load of this. So let us talk about DOA. Don't have a lot of information for you because he hasn't gone up yet, but he was in the holding area. And I could at least tell you what the public defender wants to do. The public defender, it seems, in conversations that I witnessed, that the public defender is very wary of this entire situation. She notices that a good chunk of the charges that DOA is facing, he's facing felony charges, but specifically most of these would be standalone misdemeanors. But you know, if you do vandalism, he's looking at vandalism, you would think that would be a misdemeanor, but then it gets converted into a hate crime because they're a religious service. Yes, the most legitimate religion that we could think of. Let us pray for them. And then the other aspect was interrupting worship, apparently, which usually might be a disturbing the peace, which would also be a misdemeanor. So Scientology is trying to use the cloak that they are a religion, the cloak of their religion, to kind of upgrade from what 9 times out of 10 would be a misdemeanor to try to get these felony charges, of course, with an over $325,000 bail. The public defender that has been assigned to DOA at the moment feels like that's ridiculous, and she's going to try to get, and she thinks she has a good chance of doing this, she's going to try to get him released and get the bail down to 0. Let's see what happens. But I think I would say that's entirely possible, maybe a 50-50 shot of that happening. What might also do is she could lower the bail. He might still get held, but the bail might be as little as $10,000, and maybe that could get sorted out within 3 or 4 days. So I would say you never know. Everything could be totally denied. The initial bail could stand, but I would say very likely DOA will be out of jail by the latest 4 days, because whether you love the guy, whether you hate the guy, that's a different conversation. The charges are frivolous. It's a lot of chicanery afoot. And speaking of chicanery, what was particularly interesting is Moxon and his kind of attractive assistant Jennifer were conferring with a member with an assistant district attorney. They were conferring, and he even said, "Hi, are you guys representing Scientology?" So just on the outset, there seems to be some corruption afoot, because it's supposed to be only the the state and the people that bring the charges. Scientology shouldn't really be involved. Perhaps Jordan Rolezalo should be involved. He is apparently one of the victims in the charges where they're trying to say that Scott assaulted somebody with a deadly weapon and likely to produce great bodily injury. Scientology doesn't have much to do with it. And remember, if you're prosecuting something, you're the prosecutor. It's not a restraining order where Kendrick Moxon has a say and is representing his client. It should be purely the people bringing on these charges without having any connection or much to do. Sorry, loud alarm going by. Welcome to LA. But without having much to do with Scientology itself. So the mere fact that a conversation is allowed between Mox and his assistant, Jennifer, and an assistant district attorney reeks of high heaven. And, you know, if there's some ombudsmen or investigators, they should look into the law, the legality of all of that. But that looks quite suspicious. So they had a conversation. Who knows about what? It looks like they're trying their best to try to nail them. And it really does look like that the people, the prosecutors are directly working with Scientology and trying to acquiesce to them, or at least conferring with them and asking, well, what do you want to happen? And they're not supposed to do that. They're supposed to be the prosecutors. They're supposed to have their own idea of what charges they would like and what punishment they would like. And it should have nothing to do with Scientology. Maybe Jordan himself, who's the apparent victim, might have some semblance of a say. But aside from that, this is completely not kosher, in my opinion. So I don't know the exact laws. I'm sure you're allowed to have a conversation, but if there's influence, if there's anything beyond that, people can potentially get disbarred for that kind of stuff. And people can potentially lose their position in the prosecutor's office for that. So very interesting. So we certainly know that prosecutors have some sort of relationship with Moxon, are listening to what he has to say. Whether that will influence them, that's an entirely different conversation. I would say likely, but obviously hopefully not, and legally they shouldn't have. But that was a very interesting conversation that took place. So Scott's looking at a myriad of these charges. The court convenes for recess, and I should have a report for you in 2 hours. But my assumption is the bail will get lowered. He might be held a couple of extra days, but it'll be a manageable bail that could come through. Also, news about Scott's attorney. They are trying to get Shaheen Mansouri. Mansouri assisted in Enri's case that was successful, as well as Josiah's case that was successful. So he has some experience with these Scientology situations. He couldn't help out DOA on such short notice, although the public defender is looking at this and thinking that this is quite ridiculous, especially to bring up some old charges that were in February that were initially dropped, and then all of a sudden half of these charges are previous charges that were dropped before. So she finds that very suspicious. So I think he's in good hands, the public defender, but it is guaranteed the next court session that will happen, Mr. Shaheen Mansouri, will be representing DOA, and he's been very effective. So I think he's in good hands. This is, quite frankly, ostensibly a miscarriage of justice. So I will give you a report in about 2 hours from now. So hopefully you guys can wait until then, but you have some good rub, and I will also see you a la mañana para ZDT. Hasta luego.